If you love the Bendy cards you've been seeing on the internet and want to know how to make them, stay tuned and I'll show you how. Hi, this is Sage Kimball and I'm the Mad Stamper with another technique video for card makers and paper crafters. Bendies are 3D cards that stand on their own, so your recipients will be sure to show them off. I'll demonstrate how to cut and assemble the pieces, but leave the decorating up to you. I'll be using a lot of measurements, but you don't have to write them all down because I've created templates for you, and I will give you a link where you can download those. I've already cut the cardstock for the 3 panels. The base is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. The middle layer is 2 1/2 by 5 1/2. And the front panel is 1 3/4 by 5 1/2. There's nothing mandatory about these sizes, but they're convenient for your first card because all 3 panels can be cut from one 5 1/2 by 8 1/2 inch piece of cardstock. After you learn the basics, you can experiment with different sizes for the panels or even with edgings, as in this card that I did using the sleigh ride edgelets. I've also scored the smaller panels at 1/2 inch from one end. And these will be the flaps that adhere to the back of the card base. I've made pencil marks where I'm going to cut slots and tabs that will help shape the card. So on the base, I drew a line 1 1/2 inches from the right edge. That is 1 inch long. The bottom of the line is 3/4 inches from the bottom edge, and the top is at 1 3/4 inch. Then I drew a second line right next to it, no more than 1/16 of an inch, because you'll need to cut 2 lines in order to make the slot. On the middle panel, with the scored end on the left, I've drawn a line 2 1/2 inches from the left edge that is 1 inch long. The bottom edge of the line is at 1/2 inch from the bottom of the cardstock, and the top is at 1 1/4 inches. If you want to learn how to make a template on your grid paper that will make marking all these measurements easier, click on the eye in the top right corner of the video player for a link. I'll also add it under the video. Now I can cut the slots. I have a metal ruler with cork on the back, which is perfect for this job because the cork holds the ruler in place as I'm making the cut. I also have a self-healing mat that Stampin' Up! Used to sell as part of their mat pack. And I'm going to give you a link to some mats on Amazon that will work just fine for you. So I put the mat down and then my cardstock, and lay the ruler along the first line, and I have a really sharp craft knife or X-Acto blade, and I cut along that first line. Then I'll turn the cardstock around and position the ruler on the second line, then cut. I'm also going to cut across the 2 lines at the top and the bottom. And I like to turn it over, and if I haven't made the cuts deep enough or all the way to the end, I can clean up the cuts and that little tab will come out. Now I can erase my pencil marks on the cardstock. So I'll repeat that with the middle panel. Next, I'm going to mark and cut the tabs on the end. Now the way this all fits together is, here's the slot in the card base, and here's the slot in the middle panel. And of course, when you send a card like this, you just fold them flat. This tab will go into the slot on the card base, and this tab goes into the slot on the middle panel. I've already marked the measurements I need for the tabs. This line is 1/4 inch from the right edge of the middle panel, which is opposite the scored end. And on the front panel, there's a 1/4 inch line, again, opposite the end with the score line. Then I've made cross marks on each of those vertical lines. The middle panel has cross marks at 3/4 of an inch from the bottom and 3/4 of an inch from the top, while the front panel has cross marks at 1/2 inch from the bottom and from the top. Now I'll take my paper snips and cut along that 1/4 inch line up to the mark. In both directions. Then I'll just make a little diagonal cut to meet up with it. I'll repeat those same cuts on the end of the middle panel. I like to decorate the panels at this point, as it's easier for me to stamp on them when they're flat and not adhered to the card base. Also, I like to avoid stamping on the flaps that are going to adhere to the back of the card base so the card won't look weird. After you've decorated them, use adhesive that's strong enough for 3D projects. I like to use tear and tape adhesive. So I'm going to just add that to the inside of these flaps. And you just want to remember that panels need to be oriented so that the middle panel adheres to the left side and the front panel to the right edge. I'm going to remove the covering from the tear and tape, and when I position this on the card base, I want the score line right against this left edge, and I want to make sure this bottom edge matches up with the bottom edge of the card base. Then I can fold over that flap and adhere it. With the front panel, I do the same thing on the other side. Now you can fit the tabs into the slots and have a really fun 3D card. That's it. This might seem intimidating because of all the measurements, but with the templates I'm providing, you should be able to make bendy cards with ease. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like this video, share it with your friends, and leave a comment. For more inspiration and instructions, sign up for my newsletter at www.stampingmadly.com. And don't miss another great video. Subscribe to the Mad Stamper YouTube channel by clicking on the subscribe button now.